Getting a good cup of coffee in the morning while you're traveling can sometimes be a bit of a task. There are a ton of different options for travel coffee systems out on the market. I thought it would be fun today to go over a few of my favorites that I have experience with, what I like about them, what I don't like about them, what I would recommend for you based on your situation. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with one of my long-term favorites, and that is the Aeropress. More specifically, this is the Aeropress Go. I've been an Aeropress fan and user for I think a little bit over a decade now. It has been quite a long time. It was my introduction into good quality coffee. I've always been a fan of quality beverages of any kind, whether it be tea, coffee, cocktails, beer. All of it is excellent. I love experimenting and trying new things. So when I first learned of the Aeropress, I was instantly hooked. It's inexpensive. It makes great coffee. A couple of years ago, they came out with, it's called the Aeropress Go. It's essentially the same as their classic Aeropress, but in just a more compact package, making it more able to travel. Getting into it here, I'm just unloading all of the components. You actually get your own drinking cup. So if you don't have a cup with you, you have everything kind of in its own cup and container. I tend to do an inverted method for making my Aeropress coffee. You dump in your coffee grounds, and then you have this little folding stirrer. You stir it around, you put a filter on, seal it up, and plunge it in. The system does come with a little container here to hold little paper filters. The Aeropress traditionally uses just small paper disc filters that fit over this. Almost 10 years ago when I first got my original Aeropress, I got this mesh filter and have used it ever since. It's a matter of preference, I suppose, depending on how you like your coffee, but I actually prefer the taste of the coffee with the mesh filter. The reason for that, the paper will actually absorb a lot of the oils from the coffee, which will result in a bit of a cleaner tasting cup of coffee. But if you like that sort of like meatier taste in your coffee, I think you'll really like the mesh filters. I don't know if they make this one anymore. Like I said, I think it's like 10 years old now. It's worked really well for me though, and has saved thousands and thousands of paper filters in the process. I'll link to this one or whatever the closest one I can find for this is. But yeah, this has been a really great system. I've made videos about how I make my Aeropress coffee in the past. I'll be sure to link that as well if you're interested. Also check out James Hoffman. If you're not familiar, he is the coffee guru of YouTube and did a really great multi-part series about the history of the Aeropress and figuring out and determining the ultimate brewing method for it. So I definitely recommend you check out his channel as well. I am a novice with coffee things. I'm just, an enthusiast and not an expert like James. This has everything you need with the exception of a coffee grinder and a way to heat up water. So as long as you have access to, a kettle or a microwave or something along those lines, this will work really well for you. I have recently picked this up as well. This is a little hand coffee grinder. And to be honest, I have quite a bit of experience with everything else we're talking about today. This is a newer pickup of mine. I've only used it a handful of times. It was $40 on Amazon, so I didn't have super high hopes that it's going to be some high-end coffee grinder, but I just wanted something really simple and easy to take car camping with me generally, and for that purpose, it really hasn't disappointed. You just load up your beans and just hand crank and grind. And you can set your different grind settings and everything, which you usually want sort of a medium to medium fine grind for the Aeropress in my experience. So this coffee grinder will be a good addition for any of these setups, but definitely makes for a much better cup of coffee while you're out camping or while you're out traveling, having this set up here. So that's the Aeropress Go, all packed back up in its little cup container. Moving on from there, something that I generally would not recommend, but I wanted to talk about it and cover it anyway because it is something I have used in the past, and that is the single serve instant coffee packets. These are the Starbucks Via packets, which are generally regarded as a slightly better quality version of these instant coffee packets, but they taste terrible. Just to be honest, I use these for backpacking sometimes if I really am needing to save weight in my pack. When you're hiking 10-15 miles a day, every ounce will really add up when you have to carry it around everywhere. So I do use these sometimes when I'm out backpacking, but will generally avoid it at all costs and would absolutely never travel with these in any sort of like regular travel environment. So even if you're someone that doesn't care about your coffee, you don't like coffee, you don't care, I would strongly suggest that you move away from these. There are similarly easy options that are going to taste so much better. And speaking of some of those options, I wanted to talk about Golden Ratio for a moment. Golden Ratio reached out to me a little while back and wanted me to test and try some of their coffee, and I was so impressed and absolutely loved the taste of it. They are actually sponsoring today's video as well, so a huge thanks to them for making today's video a reality. Golden Ratio is actually a little bit of a different flavor and style from your normal coffee. They make these little single serve sachet packets. It's essentially like you're brewing a bag of tea, and instead you get a nice cup of coffee at the end. But what makes Golden Ratio a little bit unique, they call themselves a gold coffee. Gold coffee is a lighter roast than your normal light or blonde roast coffee, so it's somewhere in between like a green raw coffee bean and a light or blonde roast. What that ends up meaning flavor-wise is you get something that's almost like a coffee and tea hybrid. These are really great if you're someone that's really into coffee or really into tea and looking to bridge that gap and explore other options. It has a really nice flavor. I'm a big fan of the kind of just traditional classic flavor. It has a really like smooth peanut buttery sort of taste. I've been a big fan of these, and they are just infinitely better than the single serve instant coffee packets, and they are just as convenient, just as easy, and taste way better. So huge thanks to Golden Ratio for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to check the link in the description. Use code JoshFenn for a discount on your next order. So we've covered the classic Aeropress, we've covered some of the single serve options, the instant coffee that I wouldn't recommend, the sachets that are really tasty and just as easy. Next up, I want to talk about kind of the full beast kit for making coffee while you're traveling. That is the Pakt Coffee Kit here. This is going to have just about everything you need to make coffee, with the inclusion of heating up your water, with the exception of having that coffee grinder we talked about. So I would definitely recommend, if you want to get the best cup of coffee, you want to grind your beans fresh. So bring whole beans with you and get a little pocket grinder. Might not be the best for $40, but it's definitely going to be so much better than buying pre-ground or like store-bought ground coffee. The Pakt Coffee Kit, I've talked about this thing in the past. I'm a big fan of it. It's a definite go-to for me when I'm packing a little bit lighter and have the space and weight for it. And I'm going to be in a place that doesn't necessarily have really good coffee shops around, or just really good options to heat up water. This is going to be a full-fledged system. So you actually get a full kettle that will boil your water for you and have a really nice gooseneck spout to do pour overs. And then you get your own cup and way to store your coffee, and you get a nice little pour over system that sits on top of your coffee cup. I've used this quite a few times in the last year plus that I've had it, and really love it. Most recently, my wife and I went to Sisters, Oregon for a little weekend getaway, and this really came in clutch because they don't have a ton of great coffee shops in Sisters. It's just a little small mountain town. Also didn't feel like walking. It was raining that day, so this was just a perfect setup for me to have. And it's going to be a little bit heavier and a little bit bulkier, but if you have the space and if you have the situation where it's right, this is a really great option and something that I really like. So these are my current favorite options for brewing coffee while I'm traveling and on the go, whether it be in the city or camping or otherwise. They all kind of have their own specific purpose and will suit different situations best. Aeropress Go, best for camping, really nice and compact and light and small. Always makes pretty good, dependable coffee. You have the Pakt Coffee Kit, nice, full-featured, gonna have everything you need, including the kettle. Really love that. Grinder that goes with both of them. Always important to get those freshly ground beans. And then if you really want to keep it simple, single-serve sachets like this will make really excellent coffee. One other option that I do lean on really heavily that I can't really demonstrate here, and that is going to local coffee shops wherever you're traveling. This is one of my my favorite activities to do while I travel. If I am in a city, I'm not always traveling and in a big city that's going to have different coffee shops, but whenever I am, I always like to research and go check out some local coffee shops. It's going to get you a great cup of coffee. It's going to get you something unique that you're probably not going to be able to have at home. So I always try and go to different coffee shops every morning as well, or in the afternoon. Maybe I'll have one of these early and get an afternoon cup while I'm out walking around town. So I would definitely recommend that you check that out. I would also love to hear from you in the comments. I know this is just the tip of the iceberg on options. I've heard of quite a few other things that I haven't personally tried and tested. I'd love to hear what you do for coffee while you're traveling. I'd love to hear what your favorite coffee shop in your hometown is. That would be excellent as well. If anyone is coming to Portland, Oregon, Courier Coffee is my favorite coffee shop by far. Definitely a little less hype than some of the others, but they make my favorite cups of coffee there, and they're just a really great, low-key, cool place to go and check out. So check that out if you're in Portland. Let me know where your local favorite spots are, and let me know what your system is for coffee on the go. Huge thanks to Golden Ratio for sponsoring this week's video, and huge thanks to all of you for watching today's video. I am looking forward to all of your comments and recommendations below. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you in the next one.